One of the good things for certain NFL teams for this 2014 NFL draft, with the strength and depth and the overall talent in this wide receiver class, is you're going to have guys that fall farther than maybe they should in a given year because of that talent and depth in the wide receiver class. You're going to see guys that could still be solid, productive number two, number three NFL wide receivers that get drafted in the middle rounds of the draft because other guys are valued more because of their speed, because of their initial quickness, because of their explosiveness, because of their size, maybe a combination of those skills. But I look at a guy like Jared Abbrederis from Wisconsin, and I see a guy that can be indeed a productive NFL wide receiver. He's about 6'1", 210, 215 pounds. He looks bigger, frankly. He plays a little bit bigger. So I was surprised when I saw that he was just barely 6'1". I'm like, oh wow, really? He played like he was 6'3" or 6'4" to me, maybe a reminiscent of somebody like an Eric Decker, so to speak. Similar in the sense that he was a Big Ten guy, and that teams passed on an Eric Decker out of Minnesota, and actually he didn't go until the fourth round when the Denver Broncos took him, in part because even though he was a great route runner and he had really good hands, teams questioned his speed, his initial quickness, his ability to gain separation. Now, when you look at a Jared Abbrederis, I don't think he was quite as good of a prospect as an Eric Decker coming out of Minnesota a few years ago, but I'm still an Abbrederis fan. What I see is a guy that can be counted on as that number two type of possession receiver if you've got an explosive number one on the other side that can go out there and be that kind of safety valve, that kind of security blanket, split end possession number two wide receiver that any NFL quarterback and every NFL offensive coordinator and head coach would love to have. When I look at Abbrederis on film, I see a guy that is able to get great separation, not due to size or speed or quickness or anything like that, but because of his route running. He might be one of the two or three best route runners in this entire draft, which because of his lack of speed and initial quickness, he needs to have in order to gain separation even at the college level, let alone the NFL level, because he's not an incredibly over physical wide receiver. He does have the ability to get physical when he needs to, but it's his route running and his precision in his route running, I think, that is his biggest key, along with his ability to make the routine catches as well as the sometimes tough and spectacular catches. He's not a guy, like I said, that jumps out to you athletically on tape or on film. He's not going to sit there and out jump everybody. He's not going to blow by everybody. He's not going to be a guy that gets a ton of yards after the catch. What he's going to be is a guy that can run his route, get himself open, and make the catch. And when you need a 3rd and 8 conversion, he'll get you 9 or 10 yards. And those type of guys definitely have a position and definitely have a place at the National Football League level. There's no question about it. The overall comparison I give to him is somebody like a Brian Hartline. I see some similarities in their game. Hartline might just be a little bit quicker, but not too much. Now, Abbrederis might be just a little bit of a better route runner, but kind of similar. Like I said, maybe a shorter, poor man's version of an Eric Decker. Abbrederis in this draft to me is somewhere around a 3rd or 4th round prospect. But again, when you're looking at guys in rounds 3, 4, 5, you go for one of two things. You either go for those guys that have explosive ability, or you go for those guys that were productive players at big time schools that maybe lack one or two elements, but they have everything else you think it takes to make it, because sometimes those guys can improve so much in those other areas that they can become better than their draft position. A guy like an Eric Decker, he was a 4th round pick out of Minnesota. He ended up becoming a Pro Bowl player in Denver. You could say, well, that's what Peyton Manning throwing to him, and that is very true. But still, when you look back on it now, if you were to redo that draft, I'm sure he would be nothing more than a early 2nd round pick. That's for damn sure. Because he got so good at these other things, and he got a little quicker, he got a little stronger. And I would expect once you get Abbrederis into an NFL program, into an NFL weight and strength and conditioning program, that he could get a little bigger, a little stronger, and he'll be able to get at least a little more quickness, and it will only increase his ability to get open. It'll only increase his ability to make those tough plays, those important plays, those clutch plays when you really need them. I like Abbrederis as a prospect. Like I said, I'm not in love with them compared to some of the other prospects at wide receiver in this 2014 NFL draft, but I do feel that he will ultimately be a productive receiver at the NFL level.